remember to be kind and respectful towards everyone and their opinions. So we're all here to help make our communities a better place. Just as a reminder, we are recording this this meeting, and your comments will be used to help update and guide this this strategic action plan. So with that, we'd like to get started. So as I mentioned, this week's virtual topic meeting is on personal safety and crime. If you missed last week's meeting about transportation and streets, that's okay. You can see our website and on social media for the presentation, and please leave us some comments there. We'll be using the comments as well to inform the plan. So this presentation as well will be posted on the website and social media after, and so it's used to help guide and continue the conversation and involve everyone who could not make it to this meeting. The following meeting will be the Parks and Recreation and Trails meeting, so that'll be on Monday, October 26th. And then after that, we'll be talking about South 13th Street corridor identity, but we'll be determining the date of that meeting at a later time. So for today's agenda, like I mentioned earlier, we'll be doing a presentation first, and the presentation we'll be talking a little bit about the project itself. Then we'll go into business and its role in preventing crime and in ensuring personal safety. And then we'll talk about some of the resources available at Zablocki Elementary School, as well as from the health department and ultimately from the Office of Violence Prevention as well. After the presentation, we'll move into the discussion where we'll record any of the comments that, that we're hearing and any questions that you may have. And just as a reminder, if you do have a question that you'd like to ask, feel free to use the chat function. The chat function is at the bottom of the screen and it'll say chat there. You can click on it and you can write in a question or a comment on any of the topics that we're discussing. And please feel free to do that in English and in Spanish. We have translators that will be able to help record your comments in both languages. So just as a brief overview about comprehensive plans, so comprehensive plans, the city of Milwaukee has 14 area plans, and they're used to guide future development with land use, design, and catalytic project recommendations. So what we're talking about here is an update. It's a strategic action plan to both the Southwest Side Plan, which was adopted in December of 2009, and the Near South Side Plan, which was adopted in May of 2009. Since the adoption, there have been other plans in the area, most notably the Kinnickinnick River Corridor Plan, Neighborhood Plan, which was adopted in December of 2009. So, as I mentioned, Envision South 13th Street Together is a strategic action plan, and strategic action plans are updates to area plans that recommend projects, they prioritize those projects, they identify when those projects are going to be taken care of or enacted, and they identify the responsible parties and how to enact those actual recommendations. The reason that we're doing this now is the Business Improvement District, or BID, and the community have brought forth the need for an action plan that reinvigorates the South 13th Street corridor and connects to the surrounding neighborhoods and amenities to South 13th Street. We began this project in the spring of 2020. We launched a survey, and the survey actually ended up guiding us on these theme topics that we're hosting. We launched it in August of 2020, and now we're doing the community meetings and outreach. Once we have gathered more input from the community, then we'll be moving into drafting the recommendations and enacting the plan and modifying the plan from there. And with that, I will hand it off to Stephanie Mercado from the 16th Street Community Health Centers.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Mercado, and I work for 16th Street Community Health Centers within the Department of Environmental Health. Similar to last meeting, I am giving an update of what we've heard thus far from the surveys that many of you have filled out. And if you haven't already filled it out, at the end of this, our discussion, we'll be linking it in the chat. So please, we encourage you to give your comments. Like Kevin said, this has been used to guide a lot of our discussion and lead to the creation of these theme meetings. So with that, the theme that we pulled out for this meeting was crime and safety. And just to give you a snapshot of what we've been hearing, different trends is, so this is just one question that we asked in the survey is, when you visit South 13th Street, do you typically visit a single destination or visit multiple destinations? We found that 68% of people go to one destination, which makes you start thinking, why are people only visiting one location in a commercial corridor? And then as we continue to ask other questions, the topic of crime and personal safety and how people felt in terms of crime and personal safety, we found that 34.4%, so like 1 in 3 people who responded to the survey feel poorly about the crime and safety in the area, which isn't something we want. So if you can go on to the next slide. Another thing we started, or another observation we made is when asked how do people feel about the lighting along the corridor, and in making the connection, like could lighting or lack thereof play a role into how people feel about the crime and safety or how safe they feel. We found that 42.5% of respondents felt poorly about lighting at night, and no, we had one person say that they felt great. So next slide. And then through this process, we also, the survey itself asked qualitative questions, and from that we've pulled just a few examples. So one of them is, if I had to prioritize improvement in traffic flow and safety, safety would be the most significant in improving the attractiveness of South 13th Street as a destination. So again, we want to make sure people feel safe, and we want this discussion is for us to hear what kind of things are making people feel unsafe and how can we improve that. Another comment we got is make this area more safe, just plain and simple, attractive, and we want to make it more attractive for new businesses as well as the current business. And then lastly, the amount of reckless drivers, police chases, and crime in that area make it undesirable to visit and even drive through. The area feels very crowded. We don't really understand, we can guess what very crowded means, but this conversation is to help us unpack these kinds of comments and lead to greater discussion. Overall, though, we felt that this meeting is unique because it helps address crime and safety through a business, neighborhood, planning, and eventually law enforcement perspective. So a combination of all things. But that's a snapshot of what we've heard thus far from the surveys. And I will pass it off to Leaf.
Thanks, Stephanie. My name is Leif Otteson with the Cristo Corridor Business Improvement District. Just as a little update, so we as a business district have been around since 2015, but many of our businesses have been around for generations. We have a lot of family-owned generational businesses along the corridor. So they see the changes in personal safety, crime, and kind of where they come together throughout the community. You know, some of the businesses that we surveyed, as well as residents, said, as Stephanie mentioned, that insufficient street lighting, you know, may play into how they feel about being in the corridor, as well as alley lighting. From our businesses, we found that lighting in the alleyways seems to be something that they noticed. And then related to alleyways also, but also the corridor would be illegal dumping and litter. So, you know, those are some things that are making people feel uncomfortable or questioning their surroundings a little bit. All of this leads into, or could lead into, negative perceptions of, the commercial corridor, but also your community and our community as well. And many of you may have heard through other planning meetings this idea of crime prevention through environmental design. So when we talk about things like street lighting and sight lines and things like that, we're talking about how can we prevent crime and make it a less desirable place to do some of those things through the design physically and visually of the corridor. On a positive note, the business district has put in efforts over the past 5 years to kind of improve the image and improve public safety. The businesses are proud that they've put together a couple of resources, such as the Safety and Security Matching Grant for any commercial business or property owner that wants to install or purchase, anything related to safety and security, whether that be camera systems, lighting. It could be a lot of different things. So we're proud to offer that. Many of the residents may know that a year ago we combined with a couple other business districts in MPD and Ring Incorporated to offer Ring security cameras at a large discount and largely free to those interested in taking part in the program. So we were happy to be a part of that, and it really brought a lot of community members and businesses together around the same cause. The bid has also installed municipal style trash receptacles. So when we talk about litter and the image of the district playing into public safety perceptions, cleanliness is a big aspect of that. We do want to improve that as a business district as well. And then public art, I believe, others have brought it up as well. The bid, along with some great resident leaders in our area and 16th Street and others, have done things like public murals and bus shelter art concepts that have gotten a lot of fanfare recently. And though that doesn't necessarily thwart crime, it does bring more eyes on the street and kind of raises the bar on the visual appeal of the district, hopefully, again, thwarting any negative activity. But what the businesses really want to know is, what else? What can the businesses do as individuals, as owners and shop owners, store owners, to make you and us as customers feel safer, as well as what can the business district do on a little bit larger scale to help everyone just feel like it's a more welcoming environment. So those are things I want you guys to think about, and for us all to think about as we go into the Q&A period. Without further ado, I'll hand it off to Principal Coleman of Zablocki Elementary.
Good evening. Like Leaf said, my name is Greg Coleman. I am the proud principal of Zablocki Community School. We are located at 1016 West Oklahoma Avenue. So just a couple blocks from the 13th Street corridor. Just a little bit about our demographics. We have 298 students currently enrolled. 62% of our students are Hispanic, 13% are Black or African American, 12% are white, 8% are Asian, 4% multiracial, 1% American Indian. We have 73 English language learner students. So those students come from different cultures such as Somali, Rohingyan, Burmese. So we have 7 different languages also that are spoken at our school. So we do have a large immigrant population at Zablocki. And so we just wanted to talk about some of the things that we do at Zablocki to help our young people stay safe and make sure that they are representing themselves safely and their families out when they are out in the community. So some of those things happen right in our schools. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what we do as far as our approach to discipline and making sure that we have a positive culture and climate. Restorative practices is what we are practicing now. It represents a positive step forward in helping all students learn to resolve disagreements, take ownership of their behavior, and engage in acts of empathy and forgiveness. forgiveness. These things will go a long way when our kiddos become teenagers and young adults in the community. So we are trying to make sure that we are preparing them for the future world. So we have done some things such as identify changes to systems and other adult behaviors that will create a positive school climate for all of our students. We've instituted things such as mindfulness and morning meetings, so students can come in, they can get centered, they do some breathing exercises, they may even do some meditation, and then our morning meetings are a great check-in for students to just figure out how they're feeling, and if we can address some of those things that maybe give them anxiety or stress, then we try to do that in our morning meetings. We also want to encourage good feelings in the morning. We do things such as harm circles. Students that maybe have harmed someone physically but emotionally, we want to make sure that we are repairing that harm, so we have harm circles. These are led by our social workers sometimes, as well as our classroom teachers. We want to be able to have students lead the harm circles also, so that they are taking part in that process. And then corrective feedback. So our feedback is not so much punitive, but it is to help the student correct his or her behavior. Staff members create a racially or culturally responsive classroom management plan. Our school community partnership with the for mental health with 16th Street Health Clinic is huge. So we have Miss Maggie Gonzalez, who comes into our building once a week, and she offers some psychotherapy to our young people on an individual basis. We also have a sensory path in our basement, as well as the Eagle's Nest that we are going to get up and running this year, so that our young people can take a break, decompress, breathe, get rid of some of the anxiety, and then come back to the classroom ready to learn. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about was our green schoolyard. So with our green schoolyard, we have been admitted into a cohort of schools that are going to get their schoolyards redesigned and make them more green spaces. This is in partnership with MMSD as well as Reflow. We are in the fundraising stage right now of turning our schoolyard into a more therapeutic space for our children. So there will be outdoor classrooms. We will also have a Zen garden so that students can go and again meditate, think about things that are bothering them, be able to express that in a calm manner to an adult so that they can get the help that they need. It will give them space to reflect, build community, and to just de-escalate. So those are some of the things that we are doing inside and outside of the walls of Zablocki Elementary School to make a positive impact when it comes to crime and personal safety within our community. Next slide, please. And so safe and welcoming space for the community. I am going to invite one of our teachers. She actually is one of the co-chairs of our PBIS committee, which is Positive Behavior Intervention Systems. Her name is Miss Teddy, and she is going to talk about some of the safe and welcoming spaces for the community.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Zablocki, we feel that Zablocki is a community asset that can be used by students to create a safe and healthy community. Zablocki offers consistent concern to identify what matters most to our families. So we're looking at one of our key assets we feel is that we are there for our students and for our families daily to provide support. For example, the group has been involved with helping implement a traffic light. We've noticed an increased communication between staff and families amounts. For example, the Facebook parent page is one way that parents are able to communicate in a rapid succession between the staff as well as other parents and teachers. We're looking for possible ideas in the future regarding taking a look at Zablocki as a lighted schoolhouse. For example, staff could model stewardship. In other words, how can we help? What are some other ways that we can be there for our families and for our students? We've also talked a little bit about positive parent coaching. How can we support parents as we acclimate to virtual learning? Obviously, this has been a big change for students to learn this way virtually. However, it is also very challenging, we know, for parents as well. It's a huge shift in how we do things. So we're looking at ways we can support parents as well as our students. Zablocki needs parents to continue to support the crucial routines of the school day. Children thrive on routine and consistency, and we are very grateful for the support that parents have offered to us, and we definitely need that support to continue in the future. We also encourage one another to seek support and to ask questions. And we reiterate that a lot as educators to our students. I for one, have always reiterated that with the parents of my students, that it's okay to ask questions and it's okay to seek support, especially at a time like this. We are all very much learners at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Teddy. Awesome. So with that, we're going to go ahead and hand it over to Michael.
Thank you, Principal Coleman. My name is Michael Stevenson, and I'm with the City of Milwaukee Health Department. At the Health Department, we are committed to making sure that everyone has the opportunity to live their healthiest life. So on this slide, you'll see our mission and our vision. We offer a variety of services through the Health Department, some of which you may be familiar with. These range from maternal and child health programs that provide home visiting services to new moms, to immunizations services to make sure that all of our kids, when they go to school, have the required vaccines that they need to keep our community safe. We also provide a variety of services around sexual and reproductive health, and also food inspection. So making sure that when you go to a restaurant, that it's been inspected by the health department, and ensure that it's safe and that there's good safety practices. We also believe that the health of our community is defined by much more than the typical things that we think about when we think about health. So that's one of the reasons why we're participating in this conversation today. We know that the solutions that you identify and that you talk about have the potential to improve the health of not only the community, but the whole city of Milwaukee. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Jamal from the Office of Violence Prevention.
Thank you, Mike. Jamal Smith, Violence Prevention Manager from the Office of Violence Prevention with the City of Milwaukee Health Department. Such an honor to be a part of this conversation. The mission of the Office of Violence Prevention is to prevent and reduce violence through partnerships that strengthen youth, families, and neighborhoods. So the focus, again, to Mike's point, is understanding the importance of elevating the quality of life and the position of health for our constituency, our communities, our residents across the city of Milwaukee. So the Office of Violence Prevention has been in existence since 2008. Its initial focus was mostly around domestic violence, but since 2016, we have taken on a public health perspective in ensuring that we examine, analyze, and come up with solutions that address violence, the complexities of violence from a public health lens. So some of the major programs and initiatives that exist in the Office of Violence Prevention, as you can read here, we have our City Commission on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, which is led by Karen Tyler, who is our Injury and Violence Prevention Manager for Domestic Violence. Safe Visitation and Exchange Centers connected to that. Our Coaching Boys to Men is a mentorship program led by Tiangelo Cargile, who is our Injury and Violence Youth Coordinator. Recast Milwaukee is focused on trauma and mental health services led by Arnita Holloman, who is the program manager for Recast, and has a connection with our trauma response partnership that is a collaboration with the Milwaukee Fire Department as well as the Milwaukee Police Department. Both of those entities can make referrals to the trauma response team in dealing with some of the traumatic incidences that may happen within our city, and counseling services will be provided. Our 414 Life team, which we'll get into soon, is our violence interruption program. And ultimately, we elevate our Blueprint for Peace, which was a community-led and community-driven document that focuses on strategies that elevate violence prevention work from a public health model. Next slide, please. So the vision of the blueprint for peace is that Milwaukee is a safe and resilient city where lives of all residents are valued, promoted, and protected. We understand that we have to look at that from a health equity lens in ensuring that people have access and an opportunity to experience a high quality of life. And in understanding that, we know that when people have a high quality of life, that is truly violence prevention. So in order for us to truly change the trajectory of our city in terms of the violence that we've seen on multiple fronts, then we have to make sure that we are elevating the lives of every resident that is in this city, making sure that it's valued, promoted, and protected, and people feel safe within their communities. Next slide. So these are the 6 goals after conversations with focus groups, business executives, community groups, individual residents, governmental bodies. These were the themes that came out of those conversations. And we use this as a model to truly elevate violence prevention. So goal 1, stop the shooting, stop the violence. So what, in that goal is where the 414 Live team is really elevated in making sure that there is interruption that is there for conflict resolution and mediation for violence that occurs within our communities. There's a great focus around retaliatory violence as well as providing services for those who've been impacted by violence. 2 is our promoting healing and restorative justice, which is a lot to do with our recast program. 3 is supporting children, youth, and families, which Tiangelo, our youth coordinator, does a lot of focus on, making sure that there's quality access to after-school activities, youth development programs, and the likes. 4, promoting economic opportunities, so a focus around affordable housing, employment opportunities, entrepreneurship, because we understand and know that people who feel comfortable, who have a high quality of life in terms of economic opportunity are less likely to be engaged in violence. 5 is fostering safer neighborhoods, so ensuring that there is collaboration across the board in terms of connecting with residential groups, neighborhood associations, building opportunities around initiatives like CEPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design, ensuring that there's a lot of engagement within neighborhoods to elevate safety and protection. And then 6 is strengthening capacity and coordination of violence prevention efforts. So meetings like this, collaborating with residents and community groups, individuals, business executives, and governmental entities to ensuring that those efforts are being combined around violence prevention. Next slide. So our 414 Live team focuses on these 4 areas: gun violence prevention, outreach, conflict mediation, de-escalation, hospital response. Tania Lydell is connected to the Freighter Hospital, which is the level 1 trauma hospital within the state, in terms of connecting with gun violence victims and their families and providing resources necessary for helping for them to deal with that traumatic event moving forward. And then finally, community engagement and healing. An example of that is this past Saturday, we had our 414 Live team had a pop-up event on 47th and Center. For those who don't know, Center has been labeled as one of the most dangerous dangerous streets in America, not just in the state, but in the country. So we've developed a presence on Center Street, but the great thing about our 414 Live team is that there is also a presence on the South Side. Many of our interrupters have been working closely with Marty Calderon, Team Havoc, as well as the South Side Organizing Center, so we can ensure that there is a stronger presence on the South Side in addition to the work that we do on the North Side. And also within the upcoming mayoral budget, there's been more money allocated to ensure that there is a capacity that is increased so that we can have more of our violence interrupters on the South Side to be a part of the work that has already been happening there, but then also bringing the model of de-escalation and mediation to the South Side to be able to alleviate some of the conflicts that have been happening on the South Side. And with that, I will turn it over to Kevin.
Thank you, Jamal. And thank you to all the presenters. You've presented some invaluable resources that the community can take advantage of. And that's part of the reason why we're here.